The Varn Dominion was the largest empire in the eastern spiral of the galaxy. Its fleets filled the stars, its soldiers conquered planets, and its queen, Zyra Vornketh, was feared by all. She was known as the Iron Empress, calm, ruthless, and brilliant. But even the strongest empire can bleed. For years, the Varn Dominion had fought endless border wars with the Takor Empire. Both sides were powerful, but both were tired. Every year, thousands died, resources vanished, and rebellion spread on smaller worlds. The galaxy needed peace. The Council of Worlds suggested a strange solution, a political marriage. It was old-fashioned but symbolic. A marriage between two different species, between two empires, could calm the stars. The Varn agreed, but they demanded that the partner must come from Earth, a small but respected planet known for its stubborn humans. The humans had a reputation for surviving wars even when outnumbered. The Queen thought it was a small price to pay. Humans were short-lived and fragile. She believed they could not threaten her, so Queen Zyra accepted the proposal. She would marry a human representative, not for love, but for peace. The arrival on the day of the ceremony, the great halls of the Varn capital glittered like a sea of light. Crystal towers rose into the clouds and thousands of alien species gathered to watch the historic event. The Queen stood in her armor-like gown, her silver eyes calm, waiting for her new consort to arrive. Then the human ship appeared. From it stepped Commander Ethan Cole, tall by human standards, dressed not in armor but in a simple dark uniform. He had no glowing implants, no shining weapons, nothing that showed power. Yet when he walked into the hall, the air changed. The Varn guards watched him closely. Some sneered. They expected a trembling man, nervous under alien stares. But Ethan's expression was steady. His movements were controlled, his eyes focused. When he bowed to the Queen, it was not submission, it was respect. "Commander Ethan Cole," Queen Zyra said coldly, "Earth sends you as a sign of unity. Do you accept this duty?" "I do, Your Majesty," Ethan replied. His voice was calm but firm. "For peace, I stand with you." Something about his tone made the Queen pause. It was not fear, it was quiet strength. The ceremony continued. Vows were spoken in both tongues, Varn and human. The crowd roared when the Queen and the human clasped hands beneath the twin suns. Two worlds were now bound by one promise. Life in the palace days turned into weeks. The Queen returned to her throne and her duties, expecting little from her new husband. He was given rooms in the royal wing, guarded and treated politely. She assumed he would stay quiet and ceremonial, a figure to display at political events. But Ethan surprised everyone. Instead of relaxing in comfort, he spent his days walking through the palace, observing the guards, speaking to the engineers, learning the Varn language quickly. When officials asked why he was so curious, he smiled and said, "If I am to live here, I should understand the people." The servants whispered that he was different from other humans. He didn't complain about alien food or gravity. He trained every morning in the practice hall, using simple Earth combat drills that looked slow but sharp. Even the guards who mocked him began to watch carefully. One evening, Queen Zyra entered the training hall unannounced. She wanted to see for herself what the human did each day. What she found surprised her. Ethan was practicing with a Varn combat droid, a machine designed to defeat any unenhanced warrior. Yet Ethan moved with a strange rhythm, dodging blows with calm precision. The droid struck fast, but the human was faster, not through speed but by predicting every move. Within minutes, the droid lay on the ground, deactivated. When Ethan noticed the Queen watching, he straightened and bowed slightly. "Forgive me, Your Majesty. I find exercise helps me think." Zyra studied him, intrigued. "You defeated a Class 3 combat unit without enhancement." "How?" Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "Humans train with what we have, not what we wish for." For the first time in years, the Queen smiled faintly. Two worlds. Despite their differences, a strange understanding grew between them. Zyra began to include Ethan in small meetings, mostly as a formality. Yet his questions often surprised her advisors. He asked about supply routes, morale, planetary defense, topics the Varn elite ignored. At first, the generals laughed. "Humans think too small," one said. "We control 1,000 worlds. Why care about a few outposts?" But Ethan only replied, "A kingdom falls when its smallest stones crack," the Queen noticed. Behind his gentle tone was experience. the kind of voice that belonged to someone who had seen real war. One night, they spoke privately over dinner. The room was quiet, filled with the soft glow of floating lights. "You have fought before," Zira said, watching him. "Yes," Ethan admitted. "Earth has known many wars. I was part of some. But I learned something important. Victory without purpose destroys the victor." The Queen leaned back. "You speak like someone twice your age," Ethan smiled. "Humans learn quickly when we have to." For a long moment they sat in silence. The Queen realized she did not see weakness in him anymore. There was something deep and unshakable in his calmness, a strength she couldn't yet understand. The whisper of danger peace never lasts long. A few months after the marriage, rebellion started on the outer worlds. Some Varn nobles refused to accept a human consort. They called Ethan a contaminant, an insult to royal blood. Secret groups formed in the shadows, plotting to end the alliance. The Queen's spies warned her, but she dismissed it. "They are cowards," she said. "They will not act," Ethan disagreed. "Hatred grows fastest when ignored." He requested more security in the palace, but the Queen refused. She did not want to appear afraid. So the guards relaxed. That was the mistake. The Night of Shadows, it happened on the night of the royal banquet, a celebration of peace between Earth and Varn. Diplomats, generals, and nobles filled the grand hall. Music echoed, glasses sparkled, and laughter flowed through the air. Ethan stood quietly beside the Queen, observing everything: the guards, the exits, the guests. His military instincts whispered that something felt wrong. The rhythm of the room was off. Too many servants moved too quickly. When the Queen rose to give her speech, he saw it, a faint glimmer near the balcony, a weapon. Before anyone could react, Ethan moved. He tackled the Queen to the ground just as a plasma bolt sliced through the air, burning the throne behind them. Chaos erupted. Guards shouted, guests screamed, and assassins dropped from the ceiling, masked and armed. Ethan rolled to his feet, pulling the Queen behind a pillar. "Stay down," he ordered. 3 assassins charged toward them. The guards were still confused, but Ethan acted like he had been in 100 battles before. He grabbed a fallen guard's staff, blocked the first attack, and slammed the second assassin into the wall. His movements were precise, no wasted effort. Every strike designed to disable, not kill. When the last attacker raised a blaster, Ethan threw the staff. It hit the blaster hand with perfect accuracy, sending the weapon flying. He rushed forward, twisted the assassin's arm, and knocked him out cold. By the time the royal guards regained control, all 6 assassins were unconscious, disarmed and tied with their own belts. The Queen stared at him, speechless. You fought like a trained Varn captain." "How is that possible?" Ethan breathed heavily but smiled. "On Earth we learn to protect what matters, even when we have nothing but our hands." A new understanding. The next morning, the palace buzzed with rumors. Some said the human had used hidden technology. Others said he was enhanced secretly. The truth was simpler. He was just human, and that was enough. Queen Zira summoned him to her private chamber. She looked at him differently now. Not as a symbol, but as a mystery. "You saved my life," she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "I only did what any soldier would do." "No," she replied. "You did what no one else could. You saw danger before even my sensors did." He said nothing. Finally, she asked, "Who are you really, Commander Cole?" He looked up, his calm eyes meeting hers. "I'm just a human who keeps his promises." The Queen turned away, hiding her thoughts. She had ruled for decades, faced wars and betrayals, yet never had anyone spoken to her like that. In that moment, for the first time, Queen Dira felt something strange, not fear, not suspicion, but respect. She realized that her new husband was not weak, not ordinary. He was something far more dangerous, a human who chose peace even after mastering war. The sun rose slowly over the Varn capital, casting long shadows across the crystalline towers. Peace had returned to the palace after the banquet attack, but the air remained tense. Queen Zira moved through the corridors with her usual grace, but her mind was restless. She could not stop thinking about the human at her side, Commander Ethan Cole. The council had called an emergency session that morning. The nobles and generals were furious. How could a human save the Queen's life? One of them demanded, slamming his fist on the council table. "We are the greatest warriors in the galaxy!" And yet we were outmatched by a fragile human. Ethan sat quietly in the corner observing. He did not argue, did not boast. He simply sipped his tea, watching the sparks of anger flare around him. Zira noticed the calm in his demeanor, the sharpness in his eyes, and felt a pang of both admiration and unease. "You underestimate him," Zira said finally, her voice steady. He acted quickly, without hesitation. "That is strength, far beyond muscle or weapons." The generals exchanged uneasy glances. The room was filled with tension. No one had ever seen the Queen praise a human so openly, and no one had ever felt the quiet intensity that followed Ethan's actions. The Assassin Network. The Queen decided that more needed to be done. If assassins could infiltrate the palace once, they could do it again. "Ethan," she said, calling him into her private chambers, "I need your help. These attacks, they will not stop unless we understand them." Ethan nodded. "I can help," he said simply. "I will find the source." The council frowned. "Why would we let a human investigate?" one advisor asked. "He is not Varn. He does not know our ways." "Because he thinks differently," Zira replied. "He sees what we cannot." Ethan spent hours analyzing the palace's security data. He examined entry points, patrol routes, and even the behavior of minor servants. Most of the council dismissed his observations as trivial, but Zira watched him carefully. His mind moved like a predator, calculating, anticipating, and predicting. By nightfall, he had identified a pattern. Small anomalies, minor deviations in servant schedules, strange energy readings near the northern corridors, all pointing to a hidden network of assassins that had infiltrated the palace months before. "This is not just a random attack," Ethan said. "They are organized, patient, and waiting for the right moment. If we act too early, they vanish. If we act too late, someone dies." The Queen was silent for a moment. She had never known a human to be so calm in the face of danger. "Prepare the guards," she ordered. "We act tonight." The night of shadows returns. The night was darker than usual. Storm clouds swirled over the city, lightning casting brief flashes across the crystalline walls. Ethan led a team of hand-picked guards through the quiet corridors, moving silently, watching every doorway. He stopped at a junction and crouched. "3 shadows ahead," he whispered. "They will strike together. Wait for my signal." The Queen followed him without hesitation. Though she was used to commanding armies, she felt something different here. With Ethan, every movement mattered. Every second counted. Then, without warning, the assassins appeared. They moved faster than anyone could track, their blades shimmering with deadly energy. The guards reacted, but Ethan was faster. He grabbed the first attacker by the wrist, twisting and throwing him into the wall. The second came at him with a spin attack. Ethan blocked it with his forearm and responded with a precise strike to the chest. Not to kill, but to incapacitate. The third assassin aimed at the Queen, but Ethan was already in motion. He intercepted the attack, deflecting the blade with a single motion and knocking the attacker unconscious with a clean strike. The Queen watched in disbelief. She had faced countless warriors, generals, and soldiers, but she had never seen such precision, such calm control. Ethan moved like water, flowing, flexible, and impossible to predict. When the battle ended, the palace was quiet once more. The assassins were restrained, their weapons taken. The guards stared at Ethan, some in awe, some in fear. "He is not just a human," one whispered. "He is something else." The Queen's question. After the battle, Zira led Ethan to the observation balcony. The twin suns had set, and the city below glittered like stars reflected on water. "You never fought like this in front of anyone before," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, I try to avoid attention. Violence is necessary only when it must be." The Queen studied him carefully. "You are strong, far stronger than any human should be. How is this possible?" He paused, looking out at the city. "Strength is not just muscle or weaponry. Strength is understanding, patience, and the will to act when others cannot. I have trained my whole life for this moment, not to dominate, but to protect." Zira's eyes narrowed. She had faced tyrants, assassins, and rebels. She had survived every war in her empire, yet she felt a shiver run through her. This human, this unassuming human, was something she could not control, and that frightened her. The hidden past. That night, Zira could not sleep. Her mind returned again and again to Ethan. She decided she had to know more about him, the human who had saved her life twice in less than a year. She summoned him to her private chambers. The room was filled with soft light casting gentle shadows. Ethan entered calmly, as always, and bowed. "You have done more than any diplomat or warrior could," she said. "Tell me, where do you come from? Who are you, really?" Ethan looked down briefly, then back up. "I am a human from Earth," he said simply. "I grew up in a world that knew war, famine, and fear. I learned to survive, to protect, and to think when others panic. That is all." Zira tilted her head. "You make it sound simple." "It is not simple," Ethan replied. "It is practice, observation, patience. Humans are fragile, but we endure. And sometimes, enduring makes us stronger than anything else in the galaxy." The Queen remained silent. She realized that this man, this human, had experienced far more than she had imagined, and yet he carried no anger, no desire for revenge, only calm, only purpose. It was a strength she had never seen before, and it unnerved her more than any warrior's sword ever could. The Council's doubt. The following morning, the Council met again. They were unsettled. "We cannot allow a human to wield such influence," one general argued. "He is not one of us. He does not understand Varn ways. He is dangerous." Zira remained calm. "He is not dangerous to the Dominion. He is dangerous only to our enemies." Another advisor scoffed. "You speak as though he is equal to our captains. He is a human, small, fragile, limited." Ethan listened quietly from the corner, then spoke in a measured voice. "I may be human, but I have survived battles that would break even the strongest Varn soldiers. I fight not because I am stronger, but because I refuse to lose what I protect." The room fell silent. Even the most vocal generals could not deny the logic. Ethan's strength was not in weapons or armor. It was in his mind, his strategy, and his courage. Zira's eyes met his, and for the first time she felt respect bordering on something deeper. She had married him for politics, but she was beginning to understand. She had married a man whose strength could reshape the stars. A quiet warning. Weeks passed, but danger never left. Ethan continued his training, his observations, and his quiet guidance of the palace guards. Rebellions flared at the Empire's edges. Takor spies appeared in subtle forms, and yet each time Ethan was ready. One night he approached the Queen on the balcony. The city lights reflected in her silver eyes. "They will come again," he said simply. Zira nodded. "And you will stop them?" Ethan's expression was calm, almost serene. "Yes, I will stop them. That is what humans do. We endure, we protect. And when necessary, we fight." The Queen realized that she had underestimated him. Not his size, not his appearance, not his culture. She had underestimated the essence of humanity itself. The quiet, relentless, indomitable will to survive and protect. For the first time, Zira felt both awe and fear. The human at her side was no mere consort. He was a force she could neither control nor ignore. The calm after the palace attack did not last. Far beyond the Varn capital, the Takor Empire had been watching, waiting, and planning. Their fleets, larger and more advanced than any before, now moved toward the border systems. Their message was clear. The alliance between the Varn and humans was a betrayal, and they would not tolerate it. Queen Zira stood on the observation deck of her flagship, her silver eyes scanning the holographic displays of incoming enemy ships. She was a ruler used to war, to strategy, to victory by brute force. Yet even she felt unease as she studied the numbers. The Takor fleet was enormous, their vessels sleek, lethal, and coordinated with precision. Beside her, Ethan remained calm, almost unnervingly so. His human presence seemed to radiate confidence, and the Queen found herself relying on his assessment more than that of her own generals. "They have doubled their fleet since last year," one of her officers said, his voice tight with concern. "We cannot match them in direct combat." Ethan turned to the hologram, studying the formations. "Direct combat is not the only way to fight," he said. "We will not meet them head-on. We will use strategy they cannot predict." The Council of Generals muttered among themselves. Strategy, yes, but from a human. They were skeptical. Humans were fragile, unenhanced. They fought with heart, perhaps, but not with overwhelming power. Ethan, however, did not argue. He simply began to issue orders, quietly at first, but with a clarity and precision that began to win over even the doubters. The plan Ethan gathered a small team of Varn engineers, tacticians, and pilots. Together they devised a plan that was audacious, almost reckless in the eyes of traditional military minds. The Tekor fleet is built for strength, Ethan explained. They will expect a frontal assault. That is exactly what we will avoid. Instead, we will lure them into the uncharted sector beyond the Aris Nebula. Once there, their supply lines will stretch thin. We will use the terrain, gravity wells, and stealth maneuvers to our advantage. The generals were skeptical. One barked, "The human asks us to risk our fleet in unknown space." Ethan remained calm. "It is not risk if we control the situation. The enemy will believe they are in command, but every move they make will be anticipated." The Queen watched him, her respect growing. This was not brute strength. This was intelligence, foresight, and courage in a form that few could understand. Finally, Zira turned to the council. "We will follow his plan," she commanded. "The human will lead the strategy. I will be beside him. Anyone who doubts me is dismissed." Whispers filled the room, but no one dared challenge her authority. Ethan nodded once humbly and began preparations. The fleet moves. The Varn fleet moved quietly, almost invisibly, through the outer corridors of the galaxy. Ethan coordinated with the pilots, ensuring that every ship followed the intricate maneuvers required to execute his plan. Every decision was precise, calculated, and fast. "Captain Rylus," Ethan said to one of the fleet leaders, "adjust your trajectory by 2.3 degrees. Keep sensors active but do not reveal our fleet. They must think we are running." Rylus hesitated, then followed the instructions. Within minutes, the fleet was in position. The Queen observed silently. She had commanded fleets across the galaxy, but she had never seen coordination like this. The human's ability to think ahead to calculate risk and advantage was unparalleled. Then, like a shadow falling across the stars, the Tekor fleet appeared at the edge of the Aris Nebula. They were confident, aggressive, and unaware of the trap that awaited them. The first engagement. The battle began subtly. Small skirmishes erupted as Varn ships appeared to retreat, drawing the Tekor forward. Ethan had predicted every move, every strike, and had positioned the fleet to exploit even the smallest misstep. A Tekor destroyer fired, expecting an easy kill. The Varn ships, guided by Ethan's algorithms and subtle maneuvers, dodged with uncanny precision. Then, using the gravity wells of nearby asteroid fields, the human coordinated a counterattack that left the destroyer disoriented and isolated. The Queen watched in awe as Ethan remained calm, issuing rapid instructions. "Deploy drones to flank the right wing. Use stealth units to disable communications. Keep the center moving forward, but slightly angled. Wait for my signal." It was a dance of deadly precision. The human's mind worked like a conductor, and the fleet obeyed perfectly. One by one, Tekor ships were disabled or destroyed, their formations collapsing under the invisible hand of strategy. Even the Queen's generals, who had doubted him moments before, began to realize something profound. This human was not just brave. He was a master of warfare, a genius who could outthink and outmaneuver a superior enemy. A close call in the midst of the battle. A massive Tekor cruiser broke through the Varn flank and aimed directly at the flagship, the Queen's ship. Sensors flashed warnings and the council panicked. Ethan, however, moved with remarkable calm. "Activate the gravity tether," he instructed. "Pull them into the asteroid field at 12 o'clock. Prepare the stealth fighters for the strike." The maneuver was risky. Any miscalculation would destroy the flagship and the Queen herself. The Varn officers hesitated. Ethan did not. The cruiser lurched, pulled by the artificial gravity field spinning helplessly among the rocks. Stealth fighters struck from all sides, disabling weapons and engines. The flagship remained untouched, the Queen safe. Zira turned to Ethan, her eyes wide. You saved the fleet." "And my life again," he shook his head. "We saved the fleet. And the mission. That is all, but Zira knew better. This was more than military genius. This was human determination, the ability to act under pressure with clarity and courage, victory and awe." By the end of the engagement, the Tekor fleet had suffered massive losses. Ships drifted silently in space, disabled or destroyed. The Varn fleet remained largely intact, a testament not to their technology, but to the human who guided them. The Queen stood on the bridge, looking at the stars littered with wreckage. She realized the truth. Without Ethan, they would have lost everything. Her empire, her people, and her own life would have been forfeit. The generals bowed, humbled. One said quietly, "This human, he has changed everything. He fights like no one we have ever known." Zira did not respond immediately. Her thoughts were elsewhere, on the man who had once seemed ordinary, but now revealed himself as extraordinary. Ethan stood quietly, observing the fleet's recovery, already thinking ahead to the next possible Takor move. The Queen felt a mix of fear and admiration. This human was unpredictable, unyielding, and brilliant. And she realized something else. She had married not a diplomat, not a figurehead, but a force the galaxy had never seen before. The Queen's reflection that night. After the fleet had regrouped, the Queen found herself alone on the observation deck. Ethan had retired to his quarters, leaving her to her thoughts. She looked out at the stars, reflecting on what had happened. She had ruled for decades, faced betrayals, wars, and assassins. Yet she had never felt awe like this before. Not for a soldier, not for a weapon, not for an empire. She felt it for a human, fragile in appearance, yet indomitable in spirit. For the first time, Zira understood why humans were feared in their own way. Not for their size or technology or armies, but for their will. Their ability to endure, to adapt, and to act decisively in the face of impossible odds. She thought of Ethan's calm eyes, his measured words, and the quiet strength he carried. She realized that she could not command him, nor could she predict him. He was beyond her understanding, a new kind of power in the galaxy, and that thought both terrified and thrilled her. A warning in the stars, the Takor had retreated, but the Queen knew this was only the beginning. They would return stronger and more determined. But now she had a secret weapon, one she could not fully control, yet could rely upon completely. Ethan Cole had revealed a glimpse of his true strength, not just as a warrior, but as a mind that could see beyond the battlefield, beyond tactics, beyond fear. He had changed the course of the war and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. And Queen Zira knew with certainty that the story was far from over. The human at her side was not only a protector, he was a force that would redefine what the galaxy believed about strength, courage, and power. For the first time in her reign, she whispered to the stars, "Human, what are you truly capable of?" Ethan did not answer, and not yet. His full strength remained a mystery even to her, and the galaxy would soon learn just how far a human could go. The calm after the first battle was short-lived. Intelligence reports from border worlds warned that the Takor Empire was regrouping, building a weapon of unprecedented power. This superweapon, designed to tear planets apart, could destroy entire fleets with a single strike. Queen Zira stood in the war room aboard her flagship, her eyes scanning the data. Hundreds of star systems had already reported attacks, and every message hinted at something worse. She had faced many enemies, but even she felt a shiver of fear. The Takor had not yet fought their final hand. Beside her, Ethan Cole remained calm. His expression betrayed nothing, yet his mind moved at lightning speed, processing the reports and formulating options. The Queen had learned by now that his calm was not ignorance. It was focus, a concentration that allowed him to see solutions where others saw only danger. "They will strike soon," one of her generals said. "Their weapon is capable of destroying this system. We cannot win this fight." Ethan turned to the display and pointed. "You are thinking in conventional terms. They assume we will react like the Varn always have. That is a mistake. I have a plan, but it requires trust, not fear." The generals exchanged uneasy glances. Trust a human? After what he had already done, some were beginning to realize that he could think in ways no Varn had ever imagined. Zira looked at him, her silver eyes piercing. "Then tell them. Show them how." Ethan nodded quietly. "We must move now. Every second we wait strengthens their advantage." The humans' strategy. Ethan summoned a select group of officers and engineers. His strategy was daring, almost impossible in conventional terms. He proposed a multi-layered defense, a combination of human-designed AI algorithms, adaptive fleet maneuvers, and a defensive grid that could neutralize the Takor superweapon. "It is risky," one engineer said nervously. "If we fail, the fleet will be destroyed." "Then we cannot fail," Ethan replied simply. "The Takor are powerful, But they are predictable in their arrogance. We will exploit that. The Queen watched him with growing admiration. His confidence was not arrogance. It was certainty born of experience. He was not just leading the plan. He was thinking 10 steps ahead of every potential enemy move. Orders went out across the fleet. Ships were reconfigured, AI systems modified, and tactical units prepared for unconventional combat. While the Varn soldiers were skilled fighters, they had never experienced such a combination of strategy, calculation, and adaptive thinking. The Tekor returned days later. The Tekor fleet appeared on the edge of the Varn space. This time they came with overwhelming force. Hundreds of cruisers, destroyers, and a superweapon capable of vaporizing entire worlds. The Queen's fleet braced for battle. General after general prepared to lead attacks, but Ethan's presence shifted the atmosphere. He moved among the crews, giving precise instructions, adjusting trajectories, and predicting enemy moves with uncanny accuracy. The first strike came without warning. A massive Tekor vessel fired its energy cannon at a planet near the capital. Warning sirens blared, shields flared, and panic spread, yet Ethan remained calm. He activated the defensive grid, a combination of Varn shields and human-adapted technology. The blast hit, and the planet was spared. The fleet had not yet fired a single shot, but the superweapon had been neutralized temporarily by the human's ingenuity. Zira stared at him. How can one man control this? Ethan's voice was steady. It is not just me. It is human planning, coordination, and focus. We act as one, even when others believe we are weak. The battle of minds, the Tekor, were furious. Their arrogance, once a strength, became their weakness. They had never faced an enemy who could anticipate every move, counter every attack, and react faster than their own calculations. Ethan orchestrated the fleet like a chess master. Smaller strike teams disabled communications. Stealth units infiltrated Tekor ships, sowing confusion and turning their own weapons against them. Gravity wells and asteroid fields were used to trap enemy vessels, while decoys lured the remaining forces into kill zones. The Queen watched from the flagship bridge, her heart racing. She had seen strategy before, but never on this scale. Ethan's mind worked at a level beyond any Varn general she had ever known. Every maneuver was precise, efficient, and devastating. Even her seasoned officers were in awe. One whispered to another, "He is not just human, he is extraordinary." The Queen in danger midway through the battle, disaster struck. A Tekor dreadnought broke through the outer defenses and headed directly for the flagship. The ship's massive energy cannon was aimed squarely at the Queen's vessel. "Ethan!" Zira shouted. "Stop it!" He did not panic. His eyes scanned the readouts and his hands moved quickly across the control panels. "Activate the emergency displacement field," he commanded. "Divert auxiliary power to the shields, now." The ship shuddered as the massive blast hit. Energy flares lit the bridge, but the flagship remained intact. The dreadnought was caught in a gravity trap, immobilized, and soon disabled by the fleet's counterattack. The Queen exhaled, her heart still racing. She realized something crucial. Ethan's strength was not only in his mind, but in his ability to stay calm under pressure, to act decisively when all others would falter. Sacrifice and revelation, the battle raged for hours. The Tekor superweapon, despite the human's ingenuity, still posed a threat. Sensors detected its power building for another strike, capable of destroying the fleet entirely. Ethan turned to the Queen. "The only way to stop it is to engage the neural interface myself. The grid will work only if I synchronize fully with it. It will take everything I have." The Queen's eyes widened. "You will survive?" "I will survive if I must," Ethan replied calmly. "But the grid will stop the weapon if I give it my full strength." The Council panicked. No human had ever interfaced with the neural grid directly. The risk was unimaginable. Yet Zira made a choice. She trusted him completely. "Do it," she said. "Save my people. Save the fleet." Ethan moved to the central control hub. As he interfaced with the grid, the energy field around the fleet glowed with brilliant light. Sensors detected his neural patterns, pushing the limits of the system. The Tekor superweapon fired. For a moment, all seemed lost. The energy blast tore through space, aimed at the fleet. Then the grid activated fully. The human's mind had become the core of the defense system. The weapon's energy was absorbed, dispersed, and redirected harmlessly into space. The fleet was saved. The Tekor were stunned, their superweapon neutralized. Aftermath. The Queen stood on the bridge watching the aftermath of the battle. The fleet had suffered losses, but they had survived, against overwhelming odds. She turned to Ethan, who had just removed his interface, looking exhausted but composed. You risked everything," she said quietly. "For us, for the Empire." Ethan shook his head. "I did what I had to do. Humans endure. We protect, we survive. That is what strength truly means." The Queen looked at him, her respect and awe deepening. She had expected a fragile human, someone she could control or dismiss. Instead, she found a man whose mind and courage could change the course of the galaxy. Even her council, previously doubtful, now bowed in recognition. One general muttered, "I have never seen anything like this, not even in the legends of the Varn warriors." Sierra's heart raced. She realized that she had married not a diplomat, not a figurehead, but a man whose abilities went far beyond anything she had imagined. The human beside her had revealed his true strength, and it was a force that could reshape the galaxy itself. A Queen's reflection. Later that night, Zira stood alone on the observation deck. The stars were calm, glittering like diamonds against the dark void. But she knew the calm would not last. The Tekor would regroup, they would strike again. Yet for the first time she did not feel fear. She had seen human strength in action, the kind that was quiet, unstoppable, and relentless. She had seen a human act decisively where armies would falter, think clearly where minds would panic, and protect with a determination that defied reason. And she realized something else. She had grown to trust him completely. Ethan Cole was no ordinary human. He was extraordinary, a force the galaxy had never expected, and a power that would change everything. For the first time, Queen Zyra whispered a thought aloud, more to herself than anyone else. "Human, what else can you do?" Ethan did not answer. He did not need to. The galaxy was already beginning to understand the answer. The galaxy was tense. Despite the previous victories, the Tekor Empire had not surrendered. Reports from border systems indicated the construction of a superweapon capable of annihilating planets and fleets alike. Unlike before, this time the threat was immediate, unavoidable, and far larger than anything the Varn Dominion had faced. Queen Zyra stood on the bridge of her flagship, her silver eyes scanning the star-filled void. The fleet was ready, but even with all their ships, the odds were grim. She had seen fleets fall in hours. She had faced death many times. And yet, for the first time, a glimmer of hope remained. Ethan Cole, the human at her side, whose calm presence had turned impossible battles into victories. Beside her, Ethan studied the holographic projections of the approaching Tekor armada. Hundreds of massive warships glowing with energy weapons approached with deadly precision. The humans and Varn's combined fleets would be severely outnumbered. Yet Ethan did not flinch. "They are counting on fear," he said softly. "We cannot give it to them. Every move must be calculated, precise, and fast. We will win not by strength, but by ingenuity." Zyra watched him, her respect deepening. This human had already saved the Dominion twice, and now he would face a threat far greater than any before. The final battle begins. The Tekor fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark storm across the stars. The first volleys of plasma and missiles streaked toward the Varn fleet. Shields flared and alarms rang across every ship. Panic rippled briefly among the ranks, but Ethan's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Focus, follow the plan exactly. Trust the grid, trust your instincts, and trust me." He activated the defense grid, a human-adapted neural network that controlled shields, weapons coordination, and fleet positioning. Every ship became part of a single organism, moving and reacting with uncanny speed. The Tekor found themselves striking ghosts, ships that dodged effortlessly, attacks that disappeared into empty space. The Queen's mind raced. She had seen fleet battles before, but never like this. Ethan's strategy turned the Varn fleet into something alive, something the Tekor could not anticipate. It was not brute force. It was human intelligence unleashed on a galactic scale. "Deploy the stealth units," Ethan commanded. "They will disable the communications array on the superweapon. Keep them distracted while we engage." The stealth fighters vanished into the dark of space, appearing behind enemy ships, sabotaging and disabling them silently. One by one, Tekor cruisers fell out of formation. Chaos spread among the attackers. And yet the Queen knew the worst was yet to come, the superweapon itself. The superweapon strikes, the Takor superweapon had a radius wide enough to destroy entire planetary systems. Sensors detected the massive energy buildup as it prepared to fire. Its power signature was unlike anything the Varn fleet had ever encountered. Ethan stepped forward, his expression calm but determined. The only way to survive this is to interface directly with the neural grid. I must synchronize completely. It will take all my strength and I may not survive, the Council gasped. A human interfacing directly with the grid? It had never been attempted. The Queen herself felt fear, yet she knew this man was their only hope. You have my trust, she said, her voice steady. Do it, Ethan nodded. Then I will give everything I have. He moved to the central hub connecting with the neural grid. As his mind merged with the system, the energy flows of the fleet, shields, and weapons became extensions of his consciousness. For a moment, the Queen felt as if he had become part of the stars themselves, controlling space with sheer will. The human mind unleashed, the superweapon fired. A massive beam of energy tore through space, aimed directly at the Varn flagship. For a split second, the fleet braced for annihilation. Then, something incredible happened. The grid, powered by Ethan's neural input, activated fully. The weapon's energy was absorbed and redirected, bending space itself. The beam twisted, split, and dispersed harmlessly into empty space. The fleet remained intact. Sierra's eyes widened. She could not comprehend the scale of what she was witnessing. One human mind, connected to a system designed for millions of ships, had neutralized the deadliest weapon in the galaxy. But Ethan was straining. Energy feedback from the grid caused his body to tremble. His breathing was heavy, yet his mind remained focused, directing the fleet and countering the Takor attacks simultaneously. Hold the line, he commanded through the fleet comms. We are not done yet. Finish them. The turning point Ethan's control allowed the Varn fleet to fight with unprecedented coordination. Gravity wells, asteroid traps, and adaptive shields made the Takor attacks almost meaningless. Varn and human ships struck together, hitting weak points in the enemy lines that had never been exploited before. The Takor fleet began to falter. Their arrogance, their reliance on brute force, was no match for the human strategic mind. For every move they made, Ethan had a counter. For every strike, he had a plan. Even the Queen's generals, who had once doubted him, now followed his orders without question. They were witnessing history, a human rewriting the rules of war on a galactic scale. And yet the strain on Ethan was visible. His eyes flickered with exhaustion, sweat streaked his face, and the neural interface glowed ominously. He was giving everything he had, and the Queen knew the cost could be his life. The ultimate sacrifice. The superweapon, damaged but still active, prepared for another strike. Ethan turned to the Queen. This will take all I have, he said quietly. If I fail, the fleet will be destroyed. If I succeed, I may not live. Sierra's eyes filled with fear, but she nodded. Do it, Ethan. Protect my people. Protect the galaxy. He placed his hands on the neural interface, closing his eyes. The energy flows of the fleet and the weapon streamed into his mind. The Queen watched, heart pounding, as the human's body trembled and his aura of calm transformed into a blinding force of will. The superweapon fired again. The beam struck the fleet, but this time it was met with an invisible wall. The energy reflected, dispersed, and evaporated harmlessly. The grid, fully controlled by Ethan, had become a shield powered by human strength and determination. The fleet cheered. The Takor panicked, but the Queen's focus was on Ethan. His body was weakening, his strength pushing past human limits. Every muscle, every thought, every heartbeat was dedicated to protecting life, a force no one in the galaxy had ever witnessed. Victory and loss, the Takor fleet, now leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. Their ships fell apart under the Varn human coordinated attacks. The superweapon was destroyed. The battle was over, yet the victory was bittersweet. Ethan collapsed from the neural interface, his body lifeless for a moment as the Queen rushed to him. No, Ethan, she cried, lifting him in her arms. His eyes fluttered open slightly. It is done, he whispered. The galaxy is safe. The Queen held him tightly. She realized then what she had known all along. This human strength was not in weapons, not in size, not in force. It was in his heart, his will, and his willingness to give everything for others. The Queen's revelation days later, the fleet had repaired, and the Takor retreat was complete. The queen walked among her people, addressing the council and the soldiers. She spoke of courage, of strategy, and of a human who had saved them all. "He is not just my consort," she said, her silver eyes shining. "He is a warrior, a leader, and a force beyond our understanding. Humanity must never be underestimated again." The council bowed in acknowledgement. The soldiers cheered. And in the quiet of the royal quarters, she looked at Ethan. He was still recovering, but alive. His calm eyes met hers, and she smiled. You are more than I ever imagined," she said softly. Ethan smiled back. "I only did what humans do. We endure, we protect, we survive." Zyra's heart swelled. She had married him expecting a human who could be controlled, perhaps guided. Instead, she had found a force that could challenge empires, a mind that could change the course of the galaxy, and a heart that could protect even the most impossible hope. For the first time in her reign, Queen Zyra felt true awe, not for weapons, fleets, or power, but for humanity itself.